If you have topics you would like to have us discuss on the Aging Well podcast, please click on the links in the episode description to send us a text or record your message or comments. We'd love to hear from you and how we can help you age well. If you benefit from the Aging Well podcast and would like to support the content financially, please click on the Support the Show link or support our affiliates and advertisers. Welcome to the Aging Well podcast. I'm Jeff Armstrong here with Corbin Bruton. In this and the episodes that follow, we will share candid discussions on aging and hear from the experts. We are here to inform and encourage as we experience, aging. In episode 87, we discussed alternatives to senior citizen and elderly. One option is third and fourth age. Third age is considered an era for personal achievement and fulfillment after retirement. On the Aging Well podcast, we consider how the choices made in the first and second ages can affect and prolong the third age, and hopefully minimize the fourth age, the era of final dependence, decrepitude, and ultimately death. The habits we form throughout life shape our third and fourth ages. In an article titled 7 Habits for Third Age Elderly, Dr. A.K. Sen Gupta suggests that certain habits become crucial to lead an active and productive third age. These include keeping self-esteem, maintaining fitness, keeping busy, remaining connected, being happy and making others happy, fighting for rights, and planning for fourth age. In this episode, we look at the first of these habits and the importance of self-esteem and self-efficacy for aging well. All right, so Corbin, if you recall in episode 87, we talked about some of the different terminologies that are used to describe or to label the older populations. And one of the labels that was used that I think we kind of decided on was probably one of the better ones is the third age.
Yeah.
I came across an article titled Senior Citizens, 7 Effective Habits for Third Age Elderly. And I thought maybe we could discuss those 7 habits and maybe take a few episodes to kind of break those down each individually. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems like a good idea. Just a little recap or a refresher. What are the 4 steps of aging, or those 4 categories?
Yeah, so the 4-age approach to aging was first proposed by Peter Lassett in, I think, the early 1980s. And he labeled 4 different age categories. And we kind of came up with our descriptions of those in episode 87 without really kind of going to the Lassett articles or the books that he had written. And I think we kind of nailed it. We were pretty close to it. The first age is an era of dependence, socialization, immaturity, and learning. So I believe that can go up to at least the age of 30, which I thought seemed a little bit long. But I would probably categorize that as our kind of period where we are growing, learning, we are preparing to be independent and be on our own. So we might be living with parents. This would be the period of time up to perhaps high school graduation, college graduation, depending on your lifelong plans. And then the second age, we enter in our era of independence, maturity, responsibility, and working. So that's the period of time where now we're on our own. We have our careers. We're making an income, hopefully preparing for the future. You might be having families and those types of things. And then third age is an era for personal achievement and fulfillment after retirement. So this is our retirement age. This is the period of time from when we stop working to the point where we enter our fourth age, which is the era for final dependence, decrepitude, and death.
Jeez.
So it's kind of that declining period in life. And it was interesting. I was talking to my wife the other night about these ages, and Betty White came up, and I'm kind of like, I'm not quite sure when and how to define when Betty White entered into that third age, because there was a woman who was very independent, still working, still acting, to the point where people are like, Betty White's going to live forever, right? And she lived to be 99. And as I recall, she didn't really have any significant period of illness or decline. I mean, she pretty much, everybody woke up and said, "Oh my goodness, Betty White is dead." And so,
like 2 weeks before her 100th birthday, and they had everything. That's crazy.
yeah.
Like,
So, when we talk about third age, this is that period of time where, you might describe it as the golden years, where we are able to capitalize on the earnings that we have made and saved over the course of our lives, enjoy retirement where we don't have to work and we can travel and do things that maybe we couldn't do while we had families and so on. And so I really think that this idea of the third age is what we were talking about when we talk about aging well.
mm-hmm.
So the article, let's kind of dive into that a little bit. First of all, the title really bothered me. After our discussion, it's like, oh my God, can they not be more inappropriate in this title? Senior citizens, and then seven effective habits for third age elderly. Third age to me is not elderly per se. We're misusing that term senior citizen and elderly in this title. And this comes from the Free Press Journal, and we will provide a link in the description notes. But I wish they would just say 7 effective habits for third age, period.
Boom.
But there's 7 habits that are described there. We have habit 1 is keeping self-esteem. Habit 2, maintaining fitness. Habit 3, being busy. Habit 4, remaining connected. Habit 5, being happy and making others happy. Habit 6, fighting for rights. I thought that was in the probably the first stage where you got to fight for your right to party. And I just might have to edit that one. My singing is horrible. But then our habit 7 is planning for fourth age, which I think is definitely important. Although I would, and we'll talk more about this as we get to habit 7, I would say planning for fourth age really should begin in the first age.
Well,
let's
actually,
dive
I
into
feel
these
like most of these should begin in the first stage.
Yeah, and I think that is one of the general themes that we talk about, is that for aging well, your planning and preparation needs to begin earlier in life. It's not something we just, okay, I'm 60 years old. Now I got to start thinking about, retirement and thinking about, what am I going to do as my health declines as I age? And I think it'd be interesting to kind of start this with a quick review of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and see if there's any kind of crossover between those. And we don't have to dive into those too much. I think Covey does a really good job in his books. And most people are probably fairly aware of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. But habit 1 is to be proactive. We're just talking about that with aging well. You want to plan ahead, focus on the things that you control and influence. Begin with an end in mind, kind of the same thing. How do we define aging? And I think as we look at that third age, how do we perceive our third age to be? And we could talk a bit about that. Put first things first. Again, kind of that aging well preparation. Think win-win. I'm not quite sure how we tie that specifically into aging well, but I know it's there. Habit 5, seek first to understand, then to be understood. Habit 6, synergize. And habit 7, one of my favorites, sharpen the saw, which I think is really what we're talking about in this podcast and aging well, is sharpening the saw, increasing motivation, energy, and work-life balance to make time for renewing activities. So sharpening the saw is probably a process that begins well before the third age and continues throughout the third age. So what are your thoughts right now?
I think it's really interesting that the article is primarily focused on the third age. But if you look at them, all of these 7 habits can actually be used in the first age, and the second age, and the third age. And it does transition into that fourth age. I don't think it should just be limited to that third age, but once we step into that third age, most of these should either be mastered, right? Like keeping self-esteem. That should be at least a portion where you're starting to become an expert at that. You may not be an expert in your first stage, and you might be discovering yourself and your self-esteem in your second stage. But by the third stage, you should know who you are, and you should know your skill sets and your ability, and you should have that self-esteem. But also, when we hit step 3, we should be prioritizing more of that fitness, that nutrition, that diet, because it's like, okay, we're stepping out of the work environment and into that realm of retirement. I have no excuses now. It's time to really focus on my health, even though it should have been prioritized through step 1 and step 2. We also understand that life kind of throws curveballs at you. But once you're in that step 3, hey, it's a different game. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like each one can kind of intertwine with each one of the steps. It's just a matter of prioritizing um, the weaker areas in our life, but then also recognizing that, hey, I have experience. I should be a master at this by step 3. Does that's my opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. This is something, and I keep emphasizing that this is what we're trying to promote in the Aging Well podcast, is that as we age well, we are going to progress through those three ages, the 4 ages, preparing for the next step. It's, in a sense, they're all potentiating. If how we set ourselves up, or we are set up in the first age, is going to have an impact on the second age, which will definitely have an impact on our third age. And you could really dive into this even deeper in terms of much of the psychosocial and the economical impacts that affect how we are able to age well.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a whole nother layer to talk about in terms of, people who don't have the opportunity for a better education are going to be limited as they move from first age to second age. And if you're not prepared for a job that is going to provide you stability and a good income, the ability to save and prepare for retirement, that's going to impact your third age. And third age, all of that stuff is going to impact how much time we are spent in our fourth age. If we are able to be well off financially, have good stability in our job throughout our lifetime, we are able to save for retirement, we are able to exercise regularly and maintain a good diet and healthy habits. Again, focusing in on the areas of well-centeredness, your spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional, and social. All of those things are going to allow us to be in better health overall as we enter into our fourth age. And hopefully, we are able to prolong the third age and significantly shorten the fourth age so that we're not in that long period of declining health, decrepitude as it was defined, and growing disease and declining health. And so it is very important how we get started in our progression through the 4 ages. So yeah, so I think there's a lot to really uncover here, and we could probably spend months of weekly podcasts talking about the benefits of aging well toward third and fourth age. So let's talk a little bit about the habit 1, keeping self-esteem, and we'll kind of make that our first episode in the 7 habits of highly effective aging well. And so let's talk about keeping self-esteem. First of all, what is self-esteem?
I think self-esteem is just your confidence in your own abilities, your skill set, and your realization of who you are as a person, and are you okay with that? I think that's what self-esteem.
Yeah, it's that being okay with yourself. I actually kind of like the word. You might recall it from when I taught you exercise motivation and adherence, and we talked a lot about self-efficacy.
It's one of my favorite classes, by the way. I strongly recommend anyone take exercise motivation.
Especially now that I'm not teaching it anymore.
It was
Dr. Ellingson saying at Western Oregon University does a really great job with that class now. So a little plug for Laura. But we talk a lot. That was one of the things I said. If you don't have an answer to one of my questions, just blurt out self-esteem or self-efficacy, because that's probably a likely answer. And self-efficacy is that confidence in being able to do the task at hand. And I think a lot of people, as they age, really lack that self-efficacy. They maybe, as we are preparing for retirement, they're not confident that they can actually, retire on the money that they have saved up. They don't know what they'll do in retirement. They don't feel like they have good enough health. And, there's so many different things that we can worry about as we enter into the third and the fourth ages. And so self-esteem and I think both self-efficacy are two important factors to consider in this first habit. And in the article, they say keeping self-esteem is one of the important aspects as retirement from work and professional life creates a low self-esteem syndrome among many individuals. They feel rejected and left out. Crucial imperative is to keep the spirits high and maintain self-esteem. Having a respect for oneself and keeping self-esteem are crucial for life journey as anyone wants to live with dignity. By affirmative actions, third age elders, and again, I don't like third age elders, maybe it should just be third agers, need to maintain their self-esteem during this period of life. And as we've argued, I think self-esteem really is crucial throughout all four stages of life. And so I did what most people are doing anymore when they have a question, and I went to ChatGPT and asked ChatGPT to kind of inform me a little bit. What can a third ager do to maintain self-esteem? And came up with actually a pretty good list. And I thought we'd maybe take each step of those lists individually and talk about those a little bit. And the first was embrace a positive mindset.
Easy. Yep. I couldn't agree more with that one.
I discussed my epigenetics test with True Diagnostic co-founder Hannah Wendt in episode 162. Epigenetic testing measures baseline and changes in your pace of aging, giving you the power to steer your anti-aging or health and wellness journey in the right direction. I learned that I am aging well. Click on the affiliate link in the episode description, use the promo code AGEWELL, and receive a 12% discount on your epigenetics test and monitor your pace of aging. Anything else? How do you maintain a positive mindset as you are attempting to age well?
You know what? Okay, so this is actually a great question, and I can tell you how easy it is, but someone else might be listening. They're thinking, it's not that simple. It can be. It's just it's a mind over matter. Any situation that we're in, no matter what it is, you can either bah humbug and be grumpy and just think all the negative thoughts, and then you just kind of let those negative thoughts fester, or you can think of it as a positive outlook, like a positive light, and the experience becomes so much more better, and you become a lot more grateful for whatever. You could be having a really, really rough day, and just everything that could go wrong is going wrong, and you can still have that positive mindset and just think, well, I'm not making mistakes. I'm making learning opportunities, right? And now you're just changing. I'm just prepping myself for success for next go around. I'm learning something out of this. And it's just that little bit of tweaking that mindset where.
You make it sound easy, but I know from experience, it's not easy to maintain a positive mindset. Obviously we want to embrace and work toward having a positive mindset. We have to do the things that at least start our day fairly positive. I know I can get up in the morning, I can journal, I can do positive affirmations and, go through my values and my mission statement, talk about the opportunities I have within the day And then as soon as I get on the highway and somebody is going 55 in the passing lane, or, cuts me off or does something really stupid, that positive mindset could be easily shattered. And so you have to do things to kind of regain that. And I've taken on a couple different principles that I use pretty regularly to try and maintain as best I can a positive mindset. And one is, I spell gratitude with two T's, kind of an attitude of gratitude. And I think we've mentioned that before. So that just trying to focus in, like you said, on just being grateful for whatever is there and understanding that the circumstances that are affecting you right now are going to have some level of positive impact or purpose going forward. And then my other is haval. And that's the Hebrew word. Sometimes I've seen it as habal, but it's the Hebrew word that basically means mist or nothingness. It comes from the book of Ecclesiastes in the Bible. It's often it's throughout that book where it talks about everything is meaningless. And it's just that let it go kind of thing. It's just, and I will often carry a water bottle in the car just to, if somebody does annoy me and I just kind of spray the mist bottle, it's all, just let it go. It's nothing. And that's how I attempt to kind of maintain a bit more of a positive mindset. It doesn't always work, but I can imagine how negative I can be if I didn't make efforts to be more positive.
Well, and also, I think there's a lot of psychological studies that are out there that say like negative thoughts have so much more of a weight on your whole mindset, your emotions. I think for everything negative, for some reason, our psyche will hold on to that like 3 times longer. It's 3 times heavier than something positive. So for an example, say you're at work or say you're at a family event, someone gives you all these compliments, you're doing good, and then one person gives you some negative news, or they throw a little jab at you. Well, even though 90% of everyone else has given you all these compliments, that one negative thing, people can hold on to that for not just the next day. Some people can hold on to those negative experiences in life for years. And so learning to kind of cut that negativity out and just flush it, or as you say, haval it, and just let it go, throw it to the wind. It means nothing. Like, stay positive.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of reminding ourselves that we have strengths, we have skills, we have experiences that make us unique and valuable, and who cares what other people think? If we're doing what we perceive to be our purpose, then, other people's negativity can just fall off us like Teflon.
Yeah.
Number 2 is set realistic goals. So it says continually set and pursue realistic goals that are meaningful to you. And we've talked about this before, I like to kind of adopt Coit Cooper's idea of unrealistic goals, goals that are beyond normal expectations. And so, we're entering that third age. I think if we look at, I'm just going to set realistic goals, I'm just going to stay healthy. And that's generally a mindset that we have as we age, or I'm going to, be able to live comfortably. Well, stretch that a little bit. Have the goals going into third age that are like, hey, I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to get more fit. I'm going to maintain my muscle mass. I'm going to, be healthy. I'm going to travel Europe. I'm going to start a new habit. I'm going to write a book in my, senior years. Things that we normally would think of, this is not something that I would expect to be able to do.
I like how you were following Coit Cooper's guidelines of saying, I am going to do this first. So
yeah, always putting that I before your SMART goals. But, doing things that are really not expected of you as an older person. I think of, my dad when he retired, and he was kind of, I don't want to say forced into, he had the opportunity to kind of retire a little bit early because his wife took a job heading up the YWCA in New York City. And so they had to leave Pittsburgh where they were living, move to the Big Apple. which was kind of a cool thing to do in your later years. I mean, they're both my stepmother had retired as well, and was kind of brought out of retirement to take this position. And so he had to kind of give up his consulting business because you can't just go to a new city and be able to just pick up where you were at. And so looking for things to do, he was encouraged to, try acting again. He had acted a lot when he was younger, done a lot of public speaking and all those types of things. So Margaret was like, hey, why don't you, try just getting some extra work? And so he got an agent and found very quickly he was being picked up for a lot of extra work. I mean, he was one of the regular extras on Law and Order Criminal Intent. I mean, I still go back and watch that first season to try and find him in every episode because he's in literally every episode if you look for him. He's done movies and he's done all stuff. And it was like, most people don't do that kind of stuff, and that's not what people tend to think of in retirement. A lot of people think of, well, in retirement, maybe I'll get a job as a Walmart greeter, and that's fine as well. But, try and set goals that are what people are like, wow, you're doing that in your retirement? That's awesome. I can't believe you're able to do that.
Well, I think it's also cool about setting goals is you feel so much better once you've accomplished that goal. Whether it's, I hit a new PR at the gym today, or I accomplished my being on a movie set goal, or maybe I just got everything on my to-do list done for the day. That just feels good. And it does boost your confidence a little bit, and it boosts that self-esteem. Like, I am accomplished. Today was, I, I nailed my goals today. I got everything. Wow. I made it happen. I did that.
And I think with setting unrealistic goals, we're likely to fail.
Right.
And accept failure. I mean, going back to Jim Harshaw, who we had on the podcast, it's success through failure. We should not give up on the benefits of failing as we age. Try things that are beyond our normal expectations. And, if we're getting stronger, you hit a PR, but you didn't hit your goal. That's pretty much an accomplishment, right? I didn't quite hit. I haven't really tried it in a while, but I wanted to hit 500 pounds in the deadlift, and I came close. I think I got up to about 480, and 480 was a lot more than I've ever done. And I'm 60 years old, so it's like, okay, I didn't hit my goal, but if I didn't hit a higher goal, if I set it for 450, okay, yeah, I would have achieved that goal, but would I have gone heavier? So I think as we set realistic goals and as we're preparing for and entering into that third age, set goals with the expectation that I'm stretching myself and I'm going to fail here and there, but I'm going to continue to grow and develop myself as I attempt to age well.
I think you can hit 500 easily. You got the frame, you got the bot. Yeah, you could do that.
I will eventually. Maybe it'll be when I'm 70, but it takes time and progress.
I think if anything, just get some straps or some more grippy something, because at that point, it's not the weight; it's going to be just the grip.
Well, that's whole strength. The lift. I mean,
no, you can do it.
I want to do it without a belt too. I got 480 without a belt. Now, granted, I did a trap bar deadlift.
That's not the same.
A little bit easier on my mechanics. So I can lift a little bit more in a trap bar than I can in an alternate grip. I also don't want to run the risk of tearing my bicep again. So that's another reason to do a kind of a modification of a standard deadlift. But it's still getting 500 pounds off the ground. So number 3, stay active and engaged. Engage in activities and hobbies that you enjoy and that give you a sense of purpose. And when I write purpose anymore, and I think this is an important thing to do as we move through age 1, first age, second age, third age, on to fourth age, is I define purpose with write purpose with a capital P. Emphasizing that is that universal purpose. It is the purpose to which you are on this earth, why you were created, why you were made, and focusing in on a bigger purpose and a more universal purpose. And I think doing that gives a greater sense of responsibility and opportunity in the things that we do. And so when we're active and we're engaged, it says, boost our self-confidence and our sense of fulfillment. And so there are a lot of ways that we can stay active as we are attempting to age well. Thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just kind of taking in the purpose portion. I recently heard a quote a couple months ago, and it's just stuck with me, and it had so much impact. But it was, and I'm going to change the quote ever so slightly. But we're all in a constant battle with the person that we are created to be versus the person that we're tempted to be. And so I think it's really important to find that purpose in life. We're each given a blessing. We're each given a skill set. We're each given something unique that that makes us us. So what's the purpose for that? What were we destined to do? What were we created to do versus what do we want to do? What are we tempted to do? And is that temptation hindering us from being something greater than what we are?
I think when we think of a more universal purpose, we dismiss regret in our lives because we are not likely to say, well, I wish I had done this, or if I can go back in time, I would change this. Because if you change anything, you're not going to be where you are right now.
Right.
And if we can accept the mistakes, the failures, the letdowns, as well as all of the positives and the wins that we've had in life, to understand that all had to happen to get us to where we are, to be able to do what we are intended to do, then you don't bother with looking back. You're always looking forward. You're always looking in the present. And I think that is an important part of purpose. And ChatGPT didn't really put purpose in here per se, but that's a big aspect of being able to maintain our self-esteem as we age. And then staying active, again, there should be those physical activities, but there should also be, spiritual, intellectual, emotional, and social activities that are going to help us to age well.
Mm-hmm.
And so that might be volunteering. It can be having a hobby, exercising, coaching, teaching. A lot of people, they go into retirement, they got a wealth of experience and knowledge. Find a place where you can share and teach that knowledge.
Right.
If you're a mechanic for all your life and you retire from being a mechanic, teach the younger generation how to repair a car, what it's like to do some of the things that we don't learn in school. And sometimes, a lot of people, their parents don't teach them those things. Number 4 is take care of your physical health. That's most of what we talk about in this podcast. Maintain a balanced diet, engage in regular exercise, get enough sleep, manage your stress. If we care for our physical health, it's going to have a much more positive impact on our overall mental well-being, our self-esteem. And so we'll talk more about taking care of your physical health in the next habit, but it's certainly a part of maintaining your self-esteem as well. If you're healthy as you're in that third age, you're going to feel better about yourself. You're going to be willing to and want to do more things.
See, I don't think it's just third age. I think it will definitely have a huge impact on the third age, but I think first age and second age, maintaining that level of fitness is critical.
Yeah, along the lifespan, it's going to be critical in order to prepare us to really have the shortest possible fourth age.
But if we're talking just in the realms of self-esteem, then yeah, third age for fitness, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think it's disappointing that we don't stress enough of physical activity for members of our population that are in the first age. We're declining the amount of time spent in physical education. We're discouraging physical activity, and we are allowing too much acceptance of our bodies being out of shape. And I got to be careful in how I phrase that, but we should be encouraging people to accept who they are and what their bodies are, the genetics that they received, but promoting them being the best that they can be with the genetics, with the physical traits and qualities that they have. And if we do that, then we're going to have a better effect of promoting physical health as we move into second age, third age. And again, that fourth age is going to be Betty White short. All right, number 5, cultivate social connections. Surround yourself with supportive and positive people who uplift you.
Oh, yeah.
Maintain and strengthen your relationships with family, friends, and your community.
Yeah. I think the huge takeaway of that is you can just go back a couple years ago and look at the decline in individuals during the COVID pandemic, that when everyone was practicing social distancing and those retirement centers, the individuals that were living in there became isolated, and there was a huge amount of decline in their physical health, their mental health, their emotional health. So keeping those lines of communication, that social energy, that fun aspect of connecting with people and loved ones and friends, it yes, I definitely think everyone should do it.
Yeah, depression is sky high in the wake of the COVID pandemic. I always liked what Richard Rohr said about you are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so when we're looking at cultivating social connections, look at the people we are spending our time with, because we may have great social connections per se, but what's the quality of those social connections? Are these people that are discouraging you from exercising? Are these people that are, as we're preparing for third age, getting you to spend your money rather than saving your money? What are the people that you are spending the most time with doing to affect your attempts to age well?
Right. Or anything for that, right? Because it could be the opposite. It could be, is your friends, are your social circle, are they hindering you? Are they promoting a lifestyle that's not going to allow you to age well? And are you going to have to make that decision to cut them out? And that's something people, in my own personal experience, I think they start doing that right around age 2, the second age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I don't know it's necessarily about cutting people out. I think it's, facilitating the relationships that are going to help you to develop and maintain a more positive self-esteem, help you to grow spiritually, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially. But, we also, I think, have a certain responsibility as we attempt to age well to elevate other people as well. So people that are pulling us down, they can either pull us down or we can pull them up. And if we choose to try and pull people up, and the people then that are going to try and pull you down harder than you're pulling up, then yeah, dismiss those people. But oftentimes people need us to pull them up and to help them develop their positive self-image. And it's their negative self-image that's, them trying to pull us down, if that makes any sense.
Totally.
So consider those, cultivating our social connections. Number 6 is practice self-care. Take time for yourself and engage in activities that promote self-care and self-compassion. These can include practicing mindfulness or meditation, engaging in hobbies you enjoy, pampering yourself, or engaging in activities that promote relaxation and stress reduction. Thoughts on practicing self-care?
I think it's necessary, especially in being a part of that second age. I think life is so go, 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 go. There's hustle and bustle. And it's almost, I was just talking to my fiance about this. I don't know how her and I are doing it. We're waking up super, super early. We're going to work. And then like on our lunch break, if we take our lunch break, we're planning the wedding. And then immediately after work, we're going to another place and another place. And we're not getting home till 10 or 11 p.m. And it's just sun up to sundown, go, 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 go. And I think a couple Fridays ago, we didn't have anything, or not Fridays, a couple Saturdays ago, we didn't have anything. So we literally just went on a walk. And it was so nice to just kind of take that breather for just a moment in time. And just having that you time, I think, is really, really important. Now, you also mentioned a spiritual aspect as well. I think growing my faith within the last couple years, I think it is extremely important for one to get outside of that it's all about me element and build that relationship with that higher power and just go with that. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, and when you're talking about, finally finding time to take a walk, I think that's not really practicing self-care. It's
It felt
making
good.
those opportunities, within our day. One of my common themes in my classes is opportunity cost. We have a set amount of time in the day, and the week, and the months, and the years. How we choose to use those are going to work in our favor or work against us. And so they're either working us toward our goal or away from our goal. And so we have to really evaluate the things that we are doing and how is that going to impact, in the case of what we're talking about today, how it's going to impact us in our third age. And so, yeah, maybe there's ways that you can address some of those issues, like planning for the wedding and stuff, and doing the things that are going to promote a little bit more self-care. So rather than sitting down, go for a walk and talk about what are we going to do in the wedding. Or, you said skipping if you get a lunch. That's not practicing self-care. It's you got to make time for the lunch. You got to be eating. And yeah, maybe it has to be a little bit shorter period of time, but skipping lunch, not making time for lunch is not practicing self-care, right? And so I think when we talk about practicing self-care, it's looking at what do we need to do for ourselves spiritually, physically, intellectually, emotionally, and socially to prepare us to be able to deal more effectively with the circumstances in our lives. And if we're not taking a little bit of time in the day for either some journaling or meditation or whatever, it's really setting us up to struggle with the other things. And if we look at the time that we spend practicing self-care, that time is really an investment in the rest of the day, because we'll find that we can sleep better. We get better quality sleep, even though we might not get as many hours of sleep. We are able to do more things and do them more effectively when we are in better health and better state of mind. And we'll actually find that we can actually do more with less time.
Mm.
How about accept and embrace change? It says aging is a natural part of life. It's essential to accept and embrace the changes that come with it.
Yes, I agree. So, at my work a couple years ago, we were going to go under a huge change. We were going out of an old and very, very old system that a lot of people were comfortable with and transitioning into a new modern system. And there was a handful of us that were selected to be these change agents. And through that change agent, we were the positive light of the change, to make people feel more comfortable, more inspired, and let them know that, hey, change doesn't have to be scary. It can be a challenge. It can be a learning curve, but change is good. We benefit from change. We grow from change. If we're constantly stuck in a rut, then we're not going anywhere. So sometimes we have to change course and go a different route. If you're playing a game and you're losing in that game, sometimes you got to call a timeout, change up the playbook, and go a different route to try and win. Change can be scary. Yes, change can be overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. And I think if we don't change, then we don't grow. And if we don't grow, then we don't learn. And then we don't become a better version of ourselves. So I'm all for change. I'm also at times terrified of change as well.
You have three states of life. You're either growing, you're stagnating, or you're dying.
Right.
And so growth, the only way we can grow is, again, back to exercise physiology, the overload principle. We have to do more than that to which we are accustomed. And so we have to know that it's going to take some effort in order to grow and to change. And I think there's two ways that we can look at this idea of accepting and embracing change as we age. A lot of people just become more of that default ager. To kind of go back to Super Aging, the book by David Kravitz and Larry Wolf, when they talk about the default ager is somebody who just kind of accepts that this is a natural process. You're going to retire from work, and essentially your third age is just progressive decline toward ill health to where you're going to need people to take care of you and you have to go in a nursing home or whatever. A lot of people just accept that's what age is, and that those changes, that decline, because decline is as much a change as growth is a change, that's acceptable. And I think that's what we're trying to counter is that acceptance that we just default age and we're just going to get weaker, we're going to get slower, we're going to get older, our mental capacity is going to decline, and then we die. Mm. What we want to be are those super agers where we are embracing the opportunities to change and to grow continually as we age. And yeah, we're going to lose some of our capacities as we age, but we also have opportunities to improve in other areas that maybe we have neglected over the course of our lifetime. And so I think it's a necessity to focus in on the positive changes that we can make in life, as opposed to just accepting change as inevitable declining change, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. Lastly, seek support when needed. If you find yourself struggling with self-esteem or other emotional challenges, don't hesitate to seek support from a trusted friend, family member, or mental health professional. They can provide guidance, perspective, and assistance in building your self-esteem.
Yes, and no at the same time. I do think mental health is extremely important, and I do think if someone is in a predicament where they need it, then yes, go for it. I do believe that. I'm not saying no, don't do that. You're looking at me
because I'm not seeing where you're going with this. You said yes and no to it, and I'm okay with mental health if you need.
No. I'm a huge. If there are individuals that are out there that, if you need mental health and you need to see a professional, then yes, please, by all means, do that. I also think that through that guiding, go in with a mindset of growing and trying to work things out and trying to solve it. Not, oh, I went to see someone, they told me something, and now I'm just going to accept whatever that is, and this is who I am, and you just kind of embrace whatever negativity. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
No, it doesn't.
You don't want to embrace.
I don't think that is an accurate perception of mental health care. I mean, mental health care is not about just simply accepting where you're at. It is getting you to grow beyond those points. And it's, if you're struggling with something, you can't just accept what's causing the struggle. You have to work against the struggle. And there are going to be emotional challenges as we are attempting to age well, no matter which age we are in. And it's this idea of getting support. Ideally, our friends, our family members can encourage us and provide us some level of guidance that's going to help us to kind of be more positive, to have good self-esteem. But that professional can also help us to approach those difficulties that we're having, give us guidance, help us to improve on that self-esteem. So I'm not quite sure kind of where you're coming from with or going to with the comments.
I think that there are a lot of individuals that they know something's wrong, and then they'll go. It doesn't have to. Okay. I really want to get my words out correct on this one, because this is such a sensitive subject. But there are people, let's just say, in the physical realm. Physically, they go see a doctor because they're like, Doc, what's wrong with me? And the doctor will say, well, you're overweight. We should go through this process of getting you to lose weight to be more healthier. And let's do these step by step. But the people only hear, oh, I'm overweight. This is how I am. This is just who I am now. I think that also kind of carries forward in that that mental health as well. Someone recognizes that there's a problem, they go see a counselor or a therapist or whatever the case may be because they're in need of that. But some people, they don't necessarily they hear what their counselor says, but then they just embrace and they make whatever diagnosis a part of their identity instead of taking the necessary steps to better themselves and improve. And I would just I don't want anyone to suffer from any type of mental illness, emotional illness. I wish that every single person out there was able to overcome all those obstacles and all those barriers. And that's why I do think mental health is really important. I do think that through that health, we have to want to be better. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but you're not, I don't think, saying it in what you're saying. I mean, I think what you're trying to say is that when in seeking support, we can't just simply, seek somebody to acknowledge our problems
Correct.
and not do anything to correct those problems.
Correct. We have to make that step to move forward with the guidance of whatever professional that we're seeking. We can't just go to them and strictly rely on them. We have to make the effort ourselves.
Well, you still need to rely on it. And that's the whole point of seeking support. You have to rely on that support. That support's got to help you to understand what you need to change, how you're going to change it, support that change.
But we got to be the one to make that change.
Well, true, but that's the whole point of seeking support is
Correct.
You are seeking to make that change.
But
if you're not seeking support, you are not doing anything or making effort to change. And yeah, just because you go to a mental health professional and get a diagnosis, but you do nothing with it, that's not seeking support. That's rejecting the support that is available to you and provided to you. And that's where we need to, if we're struggling with self-esteem, we have to understand there's some issue that is causing us to feel less about ourselves. And so seek out the people that are going to help you to find the pathway to feeling better about yourself. And, it's not necessarily just accepting the things that are making your life less healthy. It's seeking who you are, and what your purpose is in order to become better and feel better about yourself and your purpose.
yes, I guess I'm speaking from my own personal experience of when I was younger. I was dealing with a lot of stuff, which I don't necessarily want to bring it up here, but it got to a point where I wanted to go see a counselor, and I was going thinking that they were going to be the ones to fix everything. And then one day something just kind of clicked that it's like, you're not going to fix it. I got to fix it. You're just a tool I can use in order to help. And I don't want to feel like this anymore. And I got to do what I need to do to get out of this. And through that journey, it's been quite a journey, but it's worth it. And very similar to my metaphor of someone going to a doctor saying, man, I have all these health problems. And the doctor says, well, you're overweight. You should go through these steps to lose the weight. And someone just hears, well, I'm overweight. This is who I am now. I can't move forward because I'm hindered by this one thing. And my doctor stated that it's just this one thing. But in the end, no, the doctor said other stuff. There's other things that you can do to overcome whatever that is. And I don't want I want people to go and I want them to get help, but I don't want, if they do get help, to latch on to something that could potentially hinder, if that makes sense of what I'm saying.
It doesn't. But
that's what I'm saying. Like,
kind of end with that and let the listener kind of sort through and make sense of it. But kind of as we go to wrap up for today, as we look at, again, trying to maintain self-esteem, I think, build self-esteem during the third age. We want to make sure that, again, we are taking care of that as best we can through the first age, second age, on into the third age. And we have to remember that self-esteem is a lifelong journey, and we're going to have our ups and downs, particularly as we're going into that third age and as we start approaching more and more toward the fourth age, that those ups and downs might be even a little bit more dramatic. But we just have to be patient with ourselves. We have to have a little bit of self-compassion. We have to really celebrate and focus in on the accomplishments. And we have to focus in on what are the positives that we have going for us going into that third age. And we should be a little bit better equipped to have and maintain a better self-esteem in the third age so that we can age well.
I agree. Age well.
Thank you for listening. I hope you benefited from today's podcast. And until next time, keep aging well.